Morning, everybody. Wetlands as cradles of biodiversity in Lagos State. Okay, first of all, what are wetlands? Well, wetland areas are ecosystems where the water covers the soil or the surface of the soil for varying periods throughout the year. Sometimes it goes up and comes down. There are lots of different types of wetlands, and I will just mention a few. Rivers, creeks, streams, estuaries, marshes, mangrove swamps, lagoons, floodplains, lakes, and even shallow seas can be wetlands. But a main characteristic is the presence of aquatic vegetation, such as grasses, shrubs, and mangroves. Wetlands are very, very vital. They're very, very vital as habitats for a wide variety of plants as well as animal species. Now, what do they provide? Well, the most important thing is the hydrological management and flood control. They act as a filtration system. They stabilize water tables by holding the rainfall, which is a form of sort of storm protection, and they can improve water quality. And also there are some economic benefits. People do actually get food, fibers for making textiles, dyes, medicines, fuel wood, and lots of other things. And also they can be used for transportation, recreation, and tourism. And those are economic benefits. But I would also say that the hydrological management aspect of it is also an economic benefit, because if your area gets flooded and you sort of lose a lot of money through sort of the floods destroying property, that's an economic benefit to have wetlands to actually try to prevent that kind of thing happening. Now, I just want to mention the Ramsar Convention. The Convention on Wetlands is an intergovernmental treaty which provides a framework for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. The treaty came into being in 1971. It's called Ramsar because the treaty was actually signed in Iran in Ramsar in Iran in 1971, and Nigeria is actually a signatory to that treaty. And also in the Nigerian constitution, there is a mention of wetlands in terms of the conservation and restoration of wetlands. World Wetlands Day is on the 2nd of February, and school children tend to celebrate that in Nigeria. And I remember the very, very first activity I did on wetlands was an exhibition for schools in 2002 called Wetlands Are Not Wastelands. Okay, wetlands in Lagos State. Around 1965, almost half of Lagos State was wetland area. But as a result of human activities, increased urbanization, we would imagine that today we've only got about 2%, and that has, that's resulted in a great loss of biodiversity. I mean, the Lagos coastline used to be very, very rich, had a very rich diversity of plants and animals and mangrove forests, but only very small bits of the original rainforest and mangroves remain today. Okay, wetlands in urban areas. I mean, wetlands can exist in heavily urbanized areas. I mean, they can be incorporated into the urban city and not just left, on the outskirts. I mean, a very good example is the Wenzhou Ecological Park in China. I mean, that's a good example of how a wetland can actually be part of the urban city. And also the London Wetlands Centre, which is situated in the heart of urban London, is another example. And we have organisations like the Wetland International and ICLEI, who can actually offer advice and guidance on how to actually maintain wetlands within urban areas. And of course, we have our own Nigerian Conservation Foundation, which you also should be involved in this kind of thing. I would say that examples in Lagos that have the potential for this would be the area around the National Theatre and also the Pebi Gorge. The National Theatre site in Igomu is one of the last places in central Lagos that resemble the actual natural environment of Lagos, that can still really be found in central Lagos. I mean, I've got a couple of pictures. You can see the part of the National Theatre in the background, and you can see, you know, the mixture of vegetation and water, and you get lots of migrating birds who actually go there. And so, you know, this is all what when we're talking about the importance of biodiversity. And this is another picture, and I think I mentioned that one of the characteristics of wetlands is that sometimes the water level goes up and down. And then you can see here that this is, you know, where the water has gone down, but sometimes the water can come up. And this is sort of what we talk in terms of, you know, water, of, you know, the hydrological management and the stabilization sort of benefits. Okay, in Lekki, over the past 20 years in Lekki, I mean, Lekki Peninsula has really changed from a wetlands rich in biodiversity into a very, very densely populated area, which keeps on growing. I mean, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Lekki, they're all situated on areas that used to be wetlands. Now, the creation of the Lekki Free Trade Zone really led to massive deforestation. And at the time, we heard that there were policies to protect the very large trees, you know, that the very large trees were not to actually come down. And also new trees were supposed to be planted. We heard that about 798 hectares of land were supposed to be preserved, and, you know, for you know, swamp, for green, as a green area, swampland and floodplains as a habitat for, you know, existing wildlife. Now, this is, I don't know whether you can see this master plan is from 2013. It's quite a while ago, but the green areas that have been laid out here, it says open space, natural park reserves. So it'll be interesting to find out whether this actually has been maintained or not, or what has actually happened since then. Right, wetlands in urban Lagos. I mean, there are many sort of areas where we can still find pockets of wetlands. I mean, Ejorh local government is a natural wetland area that has become rapidly urbanized, and, you know, the natural properties of the area to absorb rainfall is being lost, and so that's why, you know, they've sort of been having all kinds of problems with flooding. Many local governments have wetlands, and their resilience to sort of flooding can be increased if their wetland areas are protected and restored. You know, when these wetlands disappear, it's really you know, the ability to provide essential services, flood regulation, protection of biodiversity, you know, can be really enhanced. This is an example of this is a very nice example because you can just see the sort of the different types of vegetation. This is in the Ejorh area around Festac, and these are the kind of areas that are still around, but, you know, they are not really being protected, and they really are in danger of going. Now, I just wanted to show you this map. This is sort of like a proposed plan for an area in Lekki. Now, at the top, you can see sort of a green area. Now, that green area was set aside, it's a wetland area, it was set aside so that it could be used for, you know, recreation and things like that. And then the rest of the area was divided into plots for housing. I mean, that was actually what's on the plan. Now, if you see this next slide, this is actually the actual area. And you can see that there is still some green, you know, either side of the waterway. But you can also see how gradually more and more plots are getting closer and closer to the water side. And, you know, this is an area that was really set aside so that it could be used as a wetland for recreation and things like that. But, you know, there was no sign that this was actually happening. And I have a feeling there are lots of plans all over Lagos that are set out like this, but there is a lack of monitoring and of what's going on, and we really don't know how they end up. Now, when it comes to wetlands and their importance, their vital importance, it's something, you know, for all, not just the Ministry of Environment. I would say that almost all ministries have to be involved. But I know that the Office of Environmental Services and the Office of Drainage have really sort of done a lot to highlight wetlands in terms of, you know, the importance of you know, environmental management. And two wetland areas, Badagry and Dekpe, were supposed to be fenced off for this purpose. But we really need much more information and clarity about how these areas are going to be managed. It needs to be fully disclosed. We need to know the exact location, and we need to know the current status of areas that are designated as wetlands. So I think that's where I come to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kofo, Adeleke, for that wonderful presentation. I believe a lot of people will have one or two questions to ask, or we'll just allow you to please bring down your question after the full presentation and bring it up more. So thank you so much once again, Ms. Kofo, Adeleke. And it's just nice enough to hear about the hurdle of wetlands and of course their importance. And I believe everyone on board will agree with me that we can't do anything less and to come together to protect these wetlands. And of course, this will be taken us to the policies and laws that are in place to protect these wetlands. And of course, there's no any other person to do that for us. It's going to be the head of unit of wetland biodiversity in the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, Mrs. Monsurat Banire. Mrs. Monsurat Banire holds a BSc in Chemistry Education and a postgraduate degree in Analytical and Environmental Chemistry, both from the Citadel of Learning, Lagos State University. I'm proud last white, so anyway. She's a chartered chemist of Nigeria. She joined the Lagos Water Corporation in the year 1996, and she has since held many an important position and has worked at the head of water laboratory in Ijoo and the water works. At different periods over the years, she became the regional business manager of North West Region in December 2016, and was appointed head Shashi Water Works Laboratory in 2017. She has zone head of water quality assurance in 2018 and transferred service to the main civil service in 2018. Kindly join me to welcome Mrs. Monsurat Banire. She takes us on what policies and laws are in place to protect wetlands. Mrs. Monsurat Banire, hope you are there. Please, you have the floor.
Yeah, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you, ma'am. Good morning. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning to everyone and the speakers and the guests in the house. Presenting based on behalf of the Permanent Secretary, Office of the Environmental Services, Minister of the Environment, to present a paper on government efforts, wetlands in Lagos State, the government efforts, challenges. Let me see if I can share the slides. Though I wasn't informed about this, but I have it on. Let me see if I can quickly share. Okay. Oh, let me continue. I don't think I can get that done since I have just 10 minutes. Hello?
You have the floor, you can continue, okay. But then if you would have seen on your screen, share screen, maybe you can see that.
Yes, I did. I tried because I didn't put it on before, so I have to go through it. Let me just send it to, I think I'll quickly send to Olamide. So I have the permission of the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of the Environment to present this at the conservation, I think, wetlands in Lagos State, government effort, challenges and recommendation in an online workshop, which I was told is now a meeting. Organized by Ludi in collaboration with Lagos Wetland Advocacy on the 1st of September 2020. Wetland, as earlier said by the first speaker, has been described as a rich ecosystem. It's always flooded permanently or seasonally by water. It is naturally designed as a retention tank for water, either from the flood or from the dam discharge. It performs various functions, which includes the purifying the water, absorbing the toxic substances from the environment and the flood. And we have, initially we had about 53%, over 80% of Lagos State being a coastal state as wetland. But due to urbanization and various activities that has happened, we are having a very small percentage of that. Globally, I think we're having less than 6%, which has been confirmed by Osland in 2005. Going to Lagos State as the ministry and the government of Lagos State in general, the wetland in Lagos State it was first identified in 2009 during the study report carried out. It was a massive project given out to consultants to do, and a report was submitted in 2009 in which 31 wetlands were identified in Lagos State. Out of the 31 wetlands, various activities has gone on to date, and we don't have almost all the size of the wetland in place now. We have a lot of encroachment on it, and it is a fact that is well known to everybody that everybody wants to stay in the town, in urban areas. So urbanization is taking the larger portion of the wetlands away from the state. And what are the implications of this? If we have much of this urbanization and the buildings, the road construction taking up the wetlands, definitely there is bound to be problem, because naturally the system has been designed in such a way that the wetland is to serve a function. And if the function is not well served, that means a problem is about to grow. And government has taken it upon itself to do a lot of things concerning that, because we know that the challenges of urbanization cannot be ruled out. The city is an urban city, it has to meet up with the demand. There is bound to be encroachment. And if all these are not taken into consideration, if these things are not stopped, and we need to respect what wetland is, there might be continuous flooding, the water quality might be very, very poor, because you don't have the plants that might have the trap in the toxic substances from percolating into the underground water. And what happens? We take up the water and becomes harmful to the populace. Then there might be shortage of water. If all the retention tanks, if all the river lines are being blocked, we have construction on them, it might lead to water shortages. The economic activities might be affected. There might be drought, there might be food shortages, and we have lots of challenges that might come with it. So what have we done from our end, especially in the Ministry of the Environment, as given the mandate to ensure that there is sustainable wetland management in Lagos State? We always organize yearly stakeholders forum where you have people coming in, we tell them the challenges, we sensitize people on what to do, what not to do, and we have some of the stakeholders, especially the NGOs, collaborating with us, just like the one we are having now. There are suggestions, there are research institutes that have carried out research work on this. They have their data. We are collaborating with the University of Lagos presently, where we have our staff in there on the evidence use. So all those research that has been conducted on wetland, what are the challenges in terms of the flora, the fauna, all the documents, all the research results are being documented, and we are going to convert it to policy issues in Lagos State, especially on wetland management and biodiversity conservation, because wetland has various ecosystems, starting from the land, the marine, the fresh water. So it cuts across all, and these are of various economic activities in the state. Other challenges are the non-regulating of the fishing activities and the establishment of site of container sites along the west coast, the coastal areas in Lagos, especially in Lagos State. These are major issues. They have used most of especially the creeks now. You find that some of them being converted to container handling and storage sites. You have one at Agbara, there are some before Apapa. You have some of them just cutting across the Badagry Creek. These are major issues because it has to do with the clearing of the wetland for them to be sited there. So these are the issues that in the ministry we have the monitoring activities, and we've been sensitizing. Some of them are being given sanctions. Some of them are being asked to leave the site. We have a way of doing it. But there are issues with the sanction because we don't have actually the policy, though we have the environmental law, which stipulates some of the activities on that. But when it gets to the marine aspect of the enforcement, we don't have much of the capacity. So that's why we are for the policy. And this, after the identification in the 2009, where we have 31 wetlands being identified, there was a push for the policy on wetland, which will house most of the laws that will help in enforcing, especially with the nature of the wetland that were identified. So these are the things that was pushed in 2006. It's still a draft policy. And the 2009 report that is being reviewed presently, so we have consultants on it, is going to review it because we find out that the encroachments are taking a larger portion of the land, of the wetland, and we need to know the exact, delineation, the characteristics, the economic activities going on, and we need to engage the locals to own the project. We need to bring them in. So there are lots of activities lined up for 2020 and 2021 on that, which is ongoing. So part of the recommendation to ensure sustainable wetland management in Lagos State, the underlisted are of utmost priority: involvement of all stakeholders in all areas of life in wetland management and biodiversity conservation, collaboration with researchers, multinationals, and other line MDAs for effective and efficient land use, most especially the marine and wetland areas. Initiate and enact laws, policies, and other implementation tools with legal backing. Sanctions, penalties on communities converting wetlands to wastelands and refuse zones. Identify wetlands of international standard for listing on International Union of Conservation of Nature. That's IUCN. As we speak, we don't have any Ramsar site in Lagos. And as mentioned, we have sites that houses the pelagic birds. These are birds that migrate from UK to Nigeria. During the winter, they come into Nigeria. By the time it's summer, they go back. These are sites of unique characteristics that need to be listed. We have others like that, like the Yafin. We have a wetland in Badagry, Yafin area. That's one of the protected wetlands there. We have manatee. Manatee has been listed as one of the endangered species. So we have some of these creatures. We have the issue of sea turtles, especially along the Adeleke axis. We have so many poaching on those, their eggs, they are being caught, they handling, so many laws, so many issues on that has been handled by so many organizations, the Sea Turtle Nigeria, which we are part of their networking. We have the NEOMA, we have so many of them working on this. So there are issues when it comes to the wetland, there are issues when it comes to the auction, and done alone. The government is just the policy making institute that requires the collaboration of all. So, and when it comes to the ecotourism aspect of it, it's an huge investment that cannot be handled alone by government. So there is need for collaboration, there is need for sensitization, there is need for advocacy, and there is need to empower the locals. the more we empower them, the more we let them be part of the program, the better for them. And once it is being owned by them, it is being protected, and we can be able to do more on it. There is bound to be research activities right from the secondary, tertiary institutions. We have so many programs that need sponsorship that will involve them at a very young age to collaborate with us and be part of the team. They're supposed to be champions, they're supposed to be ambassadors. So on this note, I would like to say we still have more to do on wetlands, and we expect collaboration from all other stakeholders. Those are open. We are welcome. Your suggestions are highly taken, and we open an open door policy. On this note, I would like to say thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ma. That is a very big idea on what the government have been doing so far. Of course, the challenges we've been facing and the recommendation is well noted. And I know we have a lot of questions for Mrs. Banire. We'll take more questions after the presentation. And the last person on this seat, Olamide Udoma, which is the Olamide Udoma is the executive director of LUDI. Olamide is an urban activist, researcher, writer, and artist, and she holds degrees in BSc Architecture, MA Design, and MPhil Infrastructure Management. Olamide started her career in PL, giving her business and marketing foundation. Olamide has worked in London, South Africa, and in Nigeria with various organizations focusing on transport management, slum upgrading, and housing rights in urbanizing African cities. Olamide is part of the Lagos Advocacy Group campaign, and she'll be discussing on making the wetland work in Lagos. Everyone should please help me welcome Olamide Udoma as she also making the wetland work in Lagos. Olamide, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you to all the speakers as well who have spoken before me. We've already learned a lot. Today, I'm just going to quickly go through some ideas of how we can preserve the wetlands, but specifically one that we have been working on at Lagos Urban Development Initiative. So firstly, I just want to go through some ideas of how the wetlands can be preserved. There is to do nothing, because really the idea of the wetlands is to really leave it as a space that just grows by itself. No human touch really should be there. Then also wetland enhancement, so introducing more fish, more birds, more water. So if the wetlands is already degrading, is already kind of becoming unusable, these are the kind of things that one could do. Another one is tourism, and there's also agriculture, and obviously conservation, making it a natural reserve, sanctuary, and a green zone. So today I'm going to present on some of these aspects. So trying to develop the wetlands into something that can be beneficial for Lagosians and for the state, and still do its function as a water storage place for the city. So I'm going to present today the Lagos Linear Park. And it's basically a park on the wetlands. So it looks at recreation, agriculture, and non-motorized transportation. So these are the major wins for this kind of park. It offers the first intersectional example between NMT and transport policy. So really kind of looking at last mile solutions, linking different neighborhoods between Maryland, Ojota, and Okwebi. So this is a proposal, and hopefully it will be going into implementation soon. at the location, it starts at Bagada behind Antoni and moves all the way to Okwebi and goes through behind Ojota as well. Another major win is a starting point for the Lagos Green Corridor. So we have so many wetlands that actually link together and go to the sea and also to the lagoon. And so this could actually be a starting point of how we could create a green corridor in Lagos State. It's also a starting point for a local bike industry. So, you know, as we know, our city is quite congested, and this could be an opportunity to start a different mode of transportation. I think during the lockdown, we've been able to see quite a number of people cycling. I know that some people say they don't see the change, but I can definitely see more people cycling in the city. And also this idea of bringing in the bike industry can create jobs as well. The park also has an agricultural aspect to it, looking at encouraging jobs for local farmers and conservationists as well. So the issues that we're really trying to look at here are flooding, and these are the SDG goals that link with them. So target 6.6, target 11.B, target 13.1. It also looks at resilience. So resilience is a big thing now, especially when we're looking at such major, I don't want to call it catastrophe, but such major issues such as health issues such as COVID-19, but flooding is also one as well. So we have to look at resilience. Then also food security. So as I mentioned, it has an agricultural aspect. And if we can bring farming closer to the end consumer, to the houses, that would help in terms of even transportation, the cost of food as well. And also climate change, drought, flooding as well. Also preservation of the wetlands. So that's really what we're talking about today. And you know, target 12.2 says by 2030, achieve the sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources. And target 15.1 says by 2020, ensure the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use of terrestrial and inland freshwater ecosystems and their services, in particular forests, wetlands, mountains, drylands, in line with obligations under international agreements. And so this is really important because we're in 2020, and I'm not sure that we have achieved this yet. Sorry, please mute your mic. Thank you so much. Okay, so so I'm not sure that we have achieved this yet, but I feel like we are on the road to it, especially from what Ms. Banire has presented. That it's a long road, but we can start to get there by making little steps. So this is the park design here. I don't know, maybe I can try and zoom in. This is the Antoni section here, and it will have a recreational area. And then along the wetlands, along the water channel, there will be a bike path. And then further up behind Ogudu, leading to Ojota, there will be more recreational spaces, but also things like bird sanctuary. And then we go towards Okwebi here, which would also have more recreational spaces. But again, it's not about creating a park, but it's about utilizing the wetlands so that it's not just an area that we have left and then encroachment happens and nobody is seeing it happen, and then in 10, 15, 20 years time, or even tomorrow, we go there and we realize that houses are being built on the area or other developments. So we want to introduce bicycle as a mode of transportation. We're trying to introduce an 8-kilometer off-road bike trail along the river. Connecting neighborhoods will provide an easy and convenient means of transportation, especially when we're looking at last mile transportation. The construction of the bike trail will, with its supporting infrastructure, such as bike storage, bike workshop, bike sharing, will create local income opportunities and even has the potential to kickstart a local bike industry. The development of the abandoned sites will increase security and safety within the neighborhood. We're also looking at agriculture. So we're trying to integrate the local farmers while offering farming opportunities to many more farmers. So already on this parcel of land, there are people farming, but the idea is to make it more sustainable and create more opportunities for more farming, for more farmers. Then also introduce aquaponics technology so the land can be used all year round. So again, as the wetlands, once it gets to rainy season, the farmland can't really be used because it's really waterlogged at that point. So the idea here is to introduce technology and other methods of farming so that the land can be used all year round. Then also farmers will supply vegetables to neighboring markets, processing companies, and the residents, thus contributing to food security and the reduction of traffic. And also there will be a training center for local school children, as well as research institutes for extinguished local herbs and vegetables. And then lastly, we're looking at creating a recreational space. And what we're trying to do here is restore a harmed environment. So creating a boardwalk trail will enable residents and visitors to explore the wetlands in the Olamide area for leisure and educational purposes. And wetlands can offer numerous benefits of life in terms of nutrient decomposition, artificial reservoirs, research activities, bird watching, and nature conservation, amongst others. And this part of the park will preserve the environment and educational function of the wetlands for the city and increase the available biodiversity, which is rapidly lost through urbanization and water pollution. And then I just wanted to share some case studies of two parks in other parts of the world. So this was actually a landfill. It's in Egypt. It's called the Al-Azhar Park. It was originally a landfill, and it has been ecologically rehabilitated. 655 trees have been planted to date, creating a lush escape in the middle of Cairo. So it's again a city park, and it's in the middle of the city. So it can be done. It's not something that is unheard of or impossible to do. It's also a top tourist destination and has been counted as one of the 60 top public spaces in the world. And then this is another one, Singapore. So what they've done here is actually link all the different public spaces in the city, or in Singapore. And so it's a large linking network of park connectors. So you can easily navigate your way along the roads, along rivers, canals, while indulging in fun and recreation activities all over Singapore. So it connects all the parks and all the open spaces and public spaces. Some, as you can see in the picture, are not necessarily, recreational parks. They're really just wetlands that have been, you've added a bike trail, or you've added a bit of scenery, access to it, so that people can access the space. So you can really hop on a bicycle, put on a pair of rollerblades, or simply jog along the park connectors and appreciate the myriad of sensory delights and adventure within Singapore. So, lastly, this is the end of my presentation. So I'd just like to say that there are so many options as to how we can preserve the wetlands. And I think this discussion is hopefully to talk to the ministries, to also hear from them and see what we can do to move forward, how we can really move forward in regards to preserving the wetlands, because we actually went to this wetlands in Maryland area about a week ago, and we looked at some maps from about 3 years, then 10 years, and we can see the clear difference between what existed even 3 years ago to what exists right now in this area. So I think it's very important that we have these discussions, and we actually start to act as soon as possible. So thank you very much for giving me this time. And I hand back to the chairperson, Mr. Ashade.
Wow, thank you so much, Olamide. I think you've really taken us through a long way, and I know everyone is also seeing from the way I'm saying. A lot of things you actually open our eye to, going to especially the park that you just showed us from Egypt and Singapore. And this will take us to I would like to entertain some questions, because we would like to hear from everyone. All our speakers have just taken their presentation now. So if you have questions, kindly signify by it, and then we can admit you so that you can have the question. So if you have a question, please kindly signify. And Okay, I have Bobadi Shion. Okay, listen up here. Okay, Bobadi Shion. Okay. All right. So you can ask a question now.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you, Shion.
Yeah. My name is Shion. I'm actually a resident of Moro community, and so I'll actually be asking my question. I will be directing it to the Ministry of Environment, and I really want to know what ways the ministry is deploying to conserve wetland in communities like Oroshoki, because if you look at the land that we have in Oroshoki as a place, you find out that it's as if the whole land is being managed by community leaders, being sold by community leaders and the likes, and you find out that where you're supposed to call wetland are no more wetland because the state government and local government don't even have power over their land. So it's just a major problem in the community. So how do you pass this message to them for them to understand that are not sold out? Because I personally do not think people will just go to land and get them. Some people are actually behind selling the wetlands to people to live, for people to live on them. So what is the state and the local government doing in this angle in terms of advocacy and letting them understand that wetland needs to be conserved? Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Shion. And please, I hope Mrs. Banire is taking notes in that question. I'm also noting it for you, ma. So I would like to, I think the second person, I want them to ask all the questions so that we can attend to them once. So, Tohib, okay, please, you have the floor, please. Tohib.
Good morning, ma. Good morning, ma.
Morning to you.
Please,
Go
I'm
ahead,
directing my
Tohib.
questions to the Ministry. I'm directing my questions to the Ministry of Environment concerning the discussion that my Bade, or I can't remember his name, just raised now. All these our wetlands, are they being owned and managed by the state government, or these lands are being owned by all these our community leaders? Because people can't just go to the wetlands and get them. We know they are buying them at a very high price. At a very high price. So I don't understand who is selling all this land. Is it the government or these are our community leaders?
Okay, thank you so much, Tohib.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, thanks so much, Tohib. Okay, I have I have Yinka listen up his hand before. I don't know if he's still there. Yinka, okay. All right. Okay. So Mrs. Banire, I don't think we have any other person that will ask questions. So Mrs. Banire, I don't know if it would like for you to take these questions now.
So Ashade, can you hear me?
Yeah, who's that?
This is Inka.
Okay, Yinka, okay, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to say a very big thank you to everyone that has presented today. Mine is not really a question per se, or perhaps it can be taken as a question, but it's directed to the Ministry of Environment. Now, I just want to know what the ministry doing actually, because I believe there are so many agencies and ministries that actually kind of have a stake in wetlands. There are people that allocate lands, there are people stakeholder in this, and there are so many other MPAs that are kind of have some stakes, as it were. Now, what is the ministry doing to kind of bring these people together in the collaborative effort? Because I believe they need to be able to speak with one voice, to be able to kind of speak with, to be on the same page when it comes to issue of wetlands or management of natural resources like wetlands. So what is the ministry doing to kind of galvanize or bring these people together so that they can speak with one voice and they can be able to kind of face the enemy, as it were, in quotes, who has been like, taking over the land, and the common enemy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Yinka. And I will be taking the last question now. I think Olamide, if you have a question, please, Olamide, can you please ask a question now?
Great, thank you so much. So my question is not just Ministry of Environment, but it leads off Yinka's question. But to the other ministries also present, it would be great to hear from them in terms of what they are doing in regards to wetlands preservation, because I think we have quite a number of ministries who RSVP'd, and I think it would be great to hear from them as well.
Okay, I get that. Okay, thank you so much, Olamide. So I would like to call on Mrs. Banire to just in some minutes attend to those questions so that we can give room to other ministries to give their contribution on what they're doing to protect the wetlands. In fact, I also have a question to ask the last part and even the tourism. So, but let me give the floor to Mrs. Banire. Ms. Banire, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much. On the first one, the community leaders and the way they sell land, I'm going to take the 1 and 2 together. I would like to say at this point that every land in the state belongs to the state government. And Lagos state government is not just the state that you just come into the state, you just get a land from the community and start building. There are procedures before you start building. You need to chart it. You make sure that it's not part of the areas that are being allocated for a particular public use, either for structures, for wetland, drainages. So there is Lagos master plan that contains all this information. So it's always good for whoever that needs to buy land in Lagos State to go to any of the ministries in charge. You have to go to physical planning, you have to go to the land bureau, where you have, and you go to the local government too, because every community in any local government, they have like a map that will tell you the areas that you can have certain constructions. So in Lagos State, it has been an issue when it comes to community leaders, even though when they know that government is reserving this, because the government does not just take the land, it has to do with the community doing the surveying and marking certain areas, especially those ones that are meant for structural roads and for public use. But in terms of the wetland, there are natural channels that have been left, that has been like, it's like a natural channel because it has a waterlogged mostly throughout the year. It has its river line, it has its interconnectivity, it has the vegetation. So these are areas that they are virtually no-go area. But because of the rate at which people want to stay in cities and the rate at which people want to be close to nature, I think that is why they are doing this. And I would like to say at this point, even though if you're on wetland, though it's going to be very difficult, it's going to be more expensive regenerating those wetlands, they would still be taken back from whoever that is building or erecting any form of structure on it. So for the community leaders, we are engaging them more. That's why there is hardly anything we do. They are not invited, and the 2009 report, it wasn't made public because we need to be sure of the exact site, because when the stakeholders workshop was done, those are the issues raised. And that was why we are doing the review now of that report. So they are updating the report, they are doing the full delineation. We'll tell you that certain areas, certain kilometers, certain stretch from here to here is reserved as wetland. So anybody that now encroaches on it knows that the full fledged of the law will be taken against such person. Then on the line ministries, other MDAs, we interact a lot. There is hardly anything we do in the Ministry of Environment that has to do with wetland drainages and other areas, even though the last part, as you rightly mentioned, these are areas that we don't work in silos. We have a way of meeting, we meet, we discuss on some things. And when on the issue of wetlands, it's key into the theme agenda, and Mr. Governor is really keen on these, and the Honorable Commissioner. So he wanted the wetland to be a thing of economic resources for the state. It's going to retain its beauty of the state. The greenery is key to the health of the state. So on this, the MDAs, the other land MDAs, we meet and we discuss on this, and we're still hoping to do more on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ma. And we'd like to hear from the other ministry, just like Olamide asked the question. So we don't know if we have the last pack on board. They should please tell us what they are doing to preserve the wetland. So if we have last pack, any representative from last pack on board there. Okay. So, okay. Is there anyone from, okay, Mr. Adeleke, okay, thank you, Ma. Okay, you have the floor, Ma.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Adeleke, Minister of Agriculture. Precisely, I'm the head of the division, Lagos State Forestry Services. Sincerely speaking, I appreciate the comments, as we are all making efforts to preserve our wetland. And sincerely speaking, we appreciate the effort of Lagos Urban Park. When the key speaker was making her comments, she has actually said a lot concerning how our wetlands are depreciated over the years. From our own estimates, from our own survey, we even discovered that from year 2010, Lagos now has 0.02% coverage of wetlands. That is, the percentage has greatly reduced since year 2010. But on legislation, I just want to talk on legislation and to appreciate the person that spoke earlier, that the ministries have to synergize. We have to synergize. If sincerely we want to ensure that we protect and preserve our wetlands. In the Ministry of Agriculture, Cap F7 of the year 2015 is the law that protects the watersheds, the wetlands, and other green areas. And over the time that we have been in this inter-ministerial meeting, I've always said it, that the Ministry of Agriculture is ready to collaborate with any other agency to ensure that we move this state forward. It was earlier mentioned that as much as we continue to encroach the wetlands, we remove the vegetation, it will be very difficult for us to control the floods, flash flooding, erosion, or any other type of natural disasters. So we must be ready to ensure that we collaborate in ensuring that the policies, the laws, we enforce them. Another law that is very, very necessary is the National Environmental Surface Water Quality Control of year 2010. That law will also assist us in ensuring that the watersheds, the areas, people will not just go in there. And those who are there, we have to be flushed out. Fine. Some areas have already been bastardized. And when you get to survey, they will indicate to those who want to acquire such land, they will tell them, this is a forest land, this is a watershed. Still, one way or the other, we don't know how they still go ahead to build on such lands. Now, the areas that have been occupied, what about the way, looking for a way to ensure that we protect the ones that are yet to be encroached upon? So we should look at how we can enforce Cap F7 of Lagos State Law, year 2015, National Environmental Surface Water Quality Control Regulations of year 2010, and we have another law that can assist us to pull resources together, and that is Cap F5 of Lagos State Law, year 2015. It is called Forestry Development, Private Participation and Forestry Trust Fund Law. Who are those who are members of this trust fund? They are the federal, the state and local government, Ministry of Environment, Director of Physical Planning, Director of Food, Roads and Rural Infrastructure, and the Federal Department of Forestry. Now, if we pull resources together, definitely we can assess this type of fund to ensure that these projects and other projects that are similar to this can assist us to protect our disappearing wetlands and green areas, because it is not a one-man thing. Just as I mentioned, this trust fund includes Department of Forestry, Agricultural Services, Physical Planning, Ministry of Environment, and the Federal Department of Forestry. With that, we can do a lot to protect our environment and move this state forward. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Adeleke, for that contribution. And sincerely speaking, all these laws you've cited, I believe we have them in Lagos State. But one particular thing that's still lagging is the implementation of this law. That is why the House of Assemblies, especially the Committee on Environment, has a lot to do when it comes to enforcement of this law. And we would like to hear from the Ministry of Tourism, because we already have some of our participants wanted to hear from them. So please, if we have a representative from the Ministry of Tourism, please kindly signify so that you can make a contribution on this discussion. And we have a question from the chat board. Someone asking that, is there a master plan for wetland? That if we have, can you make it available for them? And this question is to the Ministry of Environment, Mrs. Banire. This person was asking if there is a master plan for wetland preservation in Lagos. Are you there, ma'am?
We have the Lagos State master plan for the whole state. We don't have specifically for wetland until the update report review is concluded.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
So I hope you get that, Mr. Dibayo Ubanju. I think you asked that question. Okay, so please, we still want to hear from the Minister of Tourism. If they are here, please, they should kindly signify. And we want to hear from the from Last Park. If Last Park is here, please, you can signify to, and the ministry. And we want to hear from the Sustainable Development Group. Please, if there's anyone from SDG, please kindly signify. Okay, ma. I will. So I would like to ask a question, ma. When this year, when we commemorate the World Wetland Day, the commissioner granted an interview, and in the interview, he said that he stated that in order to stake the development of this encroachment, that the Lagos State government would set up its monitoring and advocacy program and ensure that stakeholders collaboration for protection of state wetland resources. So I want to ask if these have been achieved. I mean, the monitoring and advocacy program have been able to steam up to have more collaboration for the protection of these state wetland resources as stated by the commissioner during the World Wetlands Day.
I think that question is for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On the issue of the advocacy, yeah, we started early in the year before the COVID, and the advocacy has been stopped for now, but the monitoring is ongoing. We have several reports being documented for now on that, but I cannot disclose much of the information for now. So the commissioner is aware of that. The monitoring is an ongoing exercise, Maybe the advocacy, there is restriction in the number of people we can bring together. So the community engagement and the advocacy has not been done. But we are going into the local communities. Was an issue on the sit-out too, which the ministry is trying to talk with some of the communities. So these are things we are doing on a very low scale for now because of the issue of the social distancing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay. Okay, Ms. Kofo, you have a question. If you have a question, please kindly. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, hello. One thing that I'm rather concerned about is the review report, which was mentioned by the Ministry for Environment, that it needs to be updated. Now, I think it was mentioned that in 2001 there were 31 wetlands identified. So are we saying that maybe that is no longer the case, and now they have to review the whole situation all over again? Because I'm very, very, very concerned. These wetlands are endangered. It is urgent. It is a priority. So this, I don't know when the review report started. I don't know when it's going to end. Is there any way of any form of internal or external monitoring of what is actually going on and why it has been why it's taking so long? Because I think the conversations that we're having today are the same conversations that we've been having for the past 10, 15 years. And I really want to have more information about this review report and what has happened to the 31 wetlands that were identified in 2009, because these wetlands need to have some kind of legal definition. Because once they have legal definition, then everybody in Lagos should be aware of where they are, the boundaries. I mean, I think it has to go through some kind of process where it has to be gazetted and things like that. So I would like to know how high up on the priority of the ministry is it to get this review report out? I mean, can we have some kind of date? Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Ms. Kofo. Ms. Banire, you have the floor for that.
Okay, thank you. On the issue of the 31 wetlands, like I said, the monitoring is an ongoing exercise, and whatever report that is being gotten inform us of the next step to take. So out of the 31 wetlands, we find out that during the monitoring, all the wetlands were not captured. So we keep having new wetlands coming into the 31 number identified. Then another problem with the 31 number wetland identified was that the report also shows that some of the wetlands have been fully encroached, some partly encroached. So we need to know the update. We need to do an update of what we were working with so that we'll be well informed. And when it comes to the legal definition, I think that was the problem with the first one. When issues of selling of the wetland comes up, the communities always put up the defense that it doesn't extend to this place, it doesn't extend to this. And when we went through the report, it was a very bulky report that a committee was set up late last year because there were issues with some of the communities selling such land. So the ministry put up, they set up the committee to review, and it was reviewed late last year. So the outcome and the recommendation was that a consultant need to be invited, and we have to be sure that the consultant should be versed in what we intend doing. So we give all the terms of reference, and those are what informed the need to update. And the updating started in January. That was March. I think we started March. So we have consultants sending in their proposals, which has been reviewed. So it's an ongoing process, and it's even topmost on the agenda of the state government and the HC. The HC is so passionate about it, and he wants it so done just like yesterday. But it has to do with going to site. It has to do with other things. So the consultants, this consultant aspect has to go through some process that is ongoing. But actually can't give you the exact time for that.
Well, if I could just come back on that, I think that is probably, you know, part of the problem, because I think the longer it takes, the harder it is actually going to be to actually do it. And I think it would help if it was made, if what you're trying to do was made much more public, so that other people know that this is going on and these are the problems. And one of the things that's very, very crucial here is the Ministry of Physical Planning. And I don't know whether there's anybody from physical planning here, because they are a very, very key ministry when it comes to this kind of thing. Because yes. I just see that this is going to just sort of keep, you know, going on, and maybe next year we will still be talking about the same thing.
No. Actually, the issue of making it public, the only aspect of it going public has to do with the community, especially when the consultant will be introduced to the community for now. But after the report, we are going to have a stakeholders meeting, which is going to involve various forms of stakeholders from the community level to investors, to NGOs. So we have a plan for that, but it has to do after the report, because the report has to be made public. Everybody has to be aware, and it's going to be a public document. And there will be a policy review. The draft policy for the 2016 will be reviewed as well. So all these needs other inputs, apart from the site visitation, apart from all the terms of reference that are given to the consultant. So the outcome of the report, that's when we can go public.
Yes, but it would be very helpful if the ministry can actually set some deadlines.
Yeah, there's going to be deadline for the consultant, yes, which I cannot tell you at this meeting.
Because, and I think sort of the deadlines are things that can be made public.
The deadline is going to be part of the condition, the such thing will be given out. I cannot be divulging such information.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Banire. I'm understanding Ms. Banire's side, because this is the government and, you know, the system that they are also, you also sworn in confidentiality in some aspect. So, but then Olamide said it, we need to have a map of all wetlands, and we need to identify the ones that are being protected, the ones that are managed, the ones that are being managed and preserved. So, and then and that will take me to a question. We have Mr. Latif. I'm going to attend to you now. And they say we have representative from the Lagos Lagoon Waterfront. Please, if you are here from Lagos Lagoon Waterfront and you would like to make contribution to this discussion, please kindly get up your hand. So, Mrs. Banire, you made mention of Iyafi wetland, and that's in Adeleke, which is a very key place where I base, especially where I have my own organization. So I would like to ask, what is the Lagos State government doing without wetland now in Iyafi?
It's one of the protected wetlands. We went there last April, so we are always monitoring the activities on that axis, because it has been protected because of the unique natures and those things that need to be conserved, both the flora and the fauna.
Okay, so that's wetland is protected, the one we have.
Yes, yes, it's fenced. You have the flora aspect of it being fenced.
So, Mr. Latif, please, you can ask a question now, Mr. Latif Oshodi. You can ask a question now, please.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon to you.
It's actually observation, not a question. I'm from Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture. And before now, the ministry has always been in collaboration with private bodies in terms of tourism development. Sometimes during the time of Fashola regime, we work with NCF, Lekki Conservation, to develop what is now known as NCF now. My own view is that the only way we can protect the wetlands is to turn it to kind of a conservation, just like Lekki conservation, something like that. There is one emo resort somewhere along Lekki Ajah side. It's just very close to the water side. The man just developed a kind of game reserve. I think the only way we can protect the wetland is to use it. Once they are not used, the pressure on the land, Lagos is the smallest in the country, but because of rural urban migration to the city, there's pressure on the little land that we have. So the only way, even though we need policies, we need everything to protect the wetland, the only way is to make use of the identified water, the wetland. If we don't use it, the pressure, the housing pressure, will make people encroach the land. And you see, it's not easy for government to be everywhere at the same time. So I think if the private sector can come forward, just like the NCF did, and come forward so that they can collaborate with the government, I think there'll be a way, that would be a way to go about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Latif Oshodi from the Ministry of Tourism and Culture. You talk about the Lekki Conservative Center and the resort. You said the private sector to come forward, but one thing I just know is is the government having the kind of plan in place to actually incorporate private sectors to come on board and, you know, for them to have a conservation on this wetland?
Can I take that?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Oshodi, please.
Okay. There is this policy of public-private participation. So it's government policy. It's open door something. If you come forward with a proposal that is worth contributing, the government will surely take part.
Okay. I think Mrs. Monsurat, you want to say something?
I actually just said it. The essence of the reports and the getting the exact size is to put it to use to an economic use, which includes ecotourism. And like I said, we are collaborating with lots of NGOs, NCF inclusive, Lufasi. So while we are getting some technical advice from them and we are working together, we have so many things going on. We need to just have the tools. And the tools means we need the exact size. If you are giving it out to an investor, we know that we are giving this the quantity of land to manage, and we should know the flora and the fauna, especially those ones with endangered species. We have to document all this. It's not something we just give out. We need to document all the facts. So having a wetland is not just land. It's not just about the water and the leaves and the vegetations we are seeing. It goes more than that. Like if we take the mangrove, we have over 1,000 species depending on that mangrove alone. So we need to document. So these are the reasons for the update. These are the faults we saw in the first one. That it gave us the landmass, it gave us the location, but it does not give us the actual flora, the quantity, the species, of the biodiversity we have into it. And if you don't have that, giving it to somebody to invest on, the person might just be looking on one side of the conservation, which we don't want it to look like that. Even though we are the case of NCF and Lufasi, they took it up themselves. They have their own uniqueness, and that is exactly what we are working on each of those wetlands. Once we know the uniqueness of this particular wetland, we give you the specification, then we have investors coming. Thank you.
Okay, one of our participants, one of the members of Lagos advocacy group said, is there a map that is a data that captures where we have all the wetlands in Lagos State?
Yes, we have that. Okay. But it's not a map. We have the geographical location. We have it. But
okay, it's not public?
It's not, but if you write, if it's granted, you can have it, can get it. Then we have it. I'll tell you we have that.
if we actually request for it, we can have that, because there are some things, just like what Miss Kofo said, there are some things that information is power, and we know how much data is very useful. If we don't have the data, if we don't know where these things are, then how well can we be able to protect them? So we will
let me say this. Excuse me. Let me say this again. It's not as if people don't know where these wetlands are. Even though if you go to some of the wetlands, I have, like when they do monitoring, they come back with pictorial evidences. We have signposts telling people that these are wetlands, and they still go ahead and do what they need to do on the land. So these are issues, and I'm sure before the end of this year, we have more on this.
Okay. I think Olamide, I think you want to say something. Are you there?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, it was I think is it Mr. Ashade from the Ministry of Tourism? I'm not sure if you can answer this, but it is to do with tourism. So from my understanding, I think there is a plan or ongoing project around the National Theatre, and I was just wondering if that's under the Ministry of Tourism. And what is the plan? What is the idea to kind of keep that landscape as a wetlands, but also, I guess, make it a tourist attraction?
Well, I'm right now, I don't have much information about that. But what I can say is that if there's any plan from government to do anything there, eventually the public will know. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And we have a lot of other projects concerning for tourist centers that even Lagos State, I can't say Lagos State encroach on them, but I don't know, particularly in Banire, we have some areas where we use some field there and trying to use them for tourist center. I don't know if there's any plan for those areas now, Mr. Ashade. Okay, I think it's not there. Okay, please. So I would like to know if we have the Lagos Lagoon waterfront here so that you can make a contribution now, please. Okay, so Mr. Adeumi, you are raising up your hand. Please, can you make your contribution now, please? Mr. Adeumi, are you there? Okay. We would like to close the meeting in a moment, but then we want to ask from our speakers, let them give us the clear path for us now to achieve this the conservation of our wetland. What's the clear path? What is now the way forward? Because now we've addressed the policies, we've talked about the roles of the private sectors, the role of the general public, the government. Now let us conclude what is the clear path for us. So, and I'll be calling on Ms. Kofo to please take that. Then we have Mrs. Banire and Olamide for us. Ms. Kofo, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi. Yes.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Before I sort of just say what I think is sort of the key thing, I would just like to say something very quickly about the National Theatre. The National Theatre could be turned into well, the wetland part of it could be turned into an educational wetland centre for schools to visit and things like that. And at the moment, there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen to the National Theatre. So I think that this is probably a critical time when people who are interested in that sort of remaining as a wetland area should actually put up a proposal. Many, many years ago, I actually did a proposal for that area. And I also know that many people at the University of Lagos have also come up with proposals of how that area can be preserved as a wetland, because it's very, very important for migratory birds and also for flooding and flood control and water stabilization. But in terms of what I think is really, really crucial here, I think it has to be sort of really identifying the wetlands that we have, so that they have legal definitions, so they can be gazetted. And I think the longer we leave it, we're really going to end up with a situation where we will not have any wetlands at all. But I would also like to sort of mention a word of warning. When it comes to nature, we might destroy all the wetlands or build over everything, but nature sometimes has a way of coming back. And when it comes back, it will come back in a very, very uncontrolled way. And so there could be huge dangers if Lagos becomes so flooded and all the sort of wetland areas sort of just come back, because we know what the issues are with sea level rise, climate change and things like that. But this is the time now when we have to try and control what we have so that we can live very, very safely and actually get benefits from these wetland areas. So I do think that it's so important that this review report happens as quickly as possible, and that the ministry should actually start setting clear deadlines, and there should be internal and external monitoring and evaluation of what is going on. Now, the map was mentioned. Now, if there is a map, why not make it public now? Because if people don't know that there is a map available, I think that the ministry could actually do a service to everybody by going public and saying, look, this is the map, and actually publicizing it. And that is a way of getting more interest, and you'll get more people sort of, maybe putting pressure on the Lagos state government to actually move faster. So I think that there's still a lot that the ministry can actually do to move things forward much faster. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. And we have Mrs. Banire. Please, you can let us have your points, the conclusion on the left part for us.
Thank you very much. But it has been highly an interactive thing. So I've noted some points, especially those ones based on the map issue. Actually, we got the location and we can easily access it, but we don't have it like a real map drawn to give you the coordinate. And actually, we have the coordinate to use in Identify, but it wasn't really a map. It was a document. It was given to us as a document, and that's what we work with. So I think we only need to move a step further to make it a real map. And the issue of making it public, it's not a decision I can make, but I'm going to write my report on this, and I'll send it to the peers. Then further instruction directive can be carried out on that. Then on this, I have to say this. Actually, it's wetland. It's highly an intensive project that involves huge costs, and the government cannot put all its resources on the wetland. That's why we have been given the mandate to collaborate with all stakeholders that have interest, that have good proposals, and those proposals must be in line with the SDG goals and the theme of the Mr. Governor. So if we have such investors, we are ready to work with such. And another thing is that we need sponsors for some of our programs. Like, well, this year before the COVID, actually we were unable to do it. We try and put up a proposal which was approved by the Honorable Commissioner to have an expedition with the tertiary institutions in Lagos State. We are hoping that we are starting with Lagos State, then it extends to the whole country. And this one will go a lot in getting them as ambassadors, and they are going to, like a mini project, a mini proposal. They might eventually own the wetlands within their school areas. So we started this, but we were unable to do it because of the COVID, and hopefully we are going to do it. So we need sponsors for this type of program. We have the plan already, we have the approval, but we need funds to make the material come to reality. Then on the evidence use, yes, in doing in making an informed decision on wetland, we have the collaboration already. So we are working with Unilag and a foreign partner, and we are hoping it's going to bring a lot of things and it's going to help us in the policy. On the enforcement, yes, enforcement. It involves a lot of things. It's not just going there. At least we give them abatement notices. We serve so many abatement notices, and we have the documents on that. We need to do more on that. Then it involves a lot of collaboration and sensitization. Then on the community, yes, we'll continue to do that. We are doing that. We need to do more. We know most of the communities, and they know us, and we'll continue to do more until we get there. But what we are planning is for every community, they have to own it. Even though we are giving it to the private sector, they have to be part of it, because they depend mostly on it. They have their economic resources coming from it, either by the sale of the land or the use of the resources that come from the wetlands, the fishery aspect, the farming, the logging of food, so many things that comes out of the wetlands. So they have to be part of it. So that's my stake on that. Then the ecotourism is key. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma. And we have
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon. I had raised my hand. I had sent a message that I wanted to make a contribution.
Oh, sorry, Temitope, I never saw that anyway.
Yes, Temitope Akimbola. I'm Director, Estate Minister of Waterfront Infrastructure Development.
Oh,
and I'm here representing the Permanent Secretary. Well, I just want to add one or two things. It's very important. Ministry of Physical Planning is key to this course, because like Mrs. Banire mentioned earlier, all land is kept on behalf of the citizens in the hands of the governor. However, some land has been released to the community by accession. And so the communities have lands to build, to farm, for communal living. And it's most of this land that you find haphazard buildings. And if you look through the wetlands in Lagos State, sometimes you see some buildings tilting. A lot of these buildings don't have planning approvals. And so you could have gone to a place today, by the time you go there, and then another 3-4 months, you'll see a building there. So the Ministry of Physical Planning needs to really, really regulate the planning and building of these structures. A lot of these structures are built by the Moneless. They are called the landowners. And they have the land because government has released the land to them, so they can have land, but they need to abide by the planning laws. A lot of them don't. And so you see them moving into the wetlands. So physical planning is very, very critical to this course, the Ministry of Physical Planning going forward. On our part, we try to do a lot of enforcement. We're still not there yet because the challenge we have are with dredgers. And you see dredgers really encroaching into the wetlands. They take sand even from under the fauna. But we are on that. But like Mrs. Banire also said, enforcement is key. Unfortunately for our ministry, we don't have a dedicated task force yet, but we're working on that. We've sent a request to Mr. Governor for approval to set up a task force dedicated to the ministry, because that's the only way we can really carry out this enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Temitope Akimbola from Lagos Lagoon Waterfront. And what the point you raised are well noted, particularly on the fiscal planning. And sincerely speaking, I believe the fiscal planning should always be on top of this game. We know they're supposed to be on this discussion, and of course we'll be engaging them henceforth. because I know they have what we call the scheme officers for every local government. I mean, the Ministry of Lands also have scheme officers where they look at each lands before you even build anything or get to encroach any land. The physical planning needs to be aware. So I think there's a kind of gap. If the community or individual are encroaching these lands, is it that the physical planning is not aware, or there's a kind of link up? This is just a kind of that is more engagement I'll be doing with the physical planning. So I would like to invite Olamide to actually make our own conclusion on the clear path for the wetlands conservation. Olamide, are you still there?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you again to all the speakers and to all the ministries and to all those of the advocacy group as well that are present in the meeting. And thank you for your contributions. I think we've kind of, I feel like we've understood maybe where the gaps are, and maybe we haven't created necessarily a roadmap, but I feel like we've tried to see what are the important things or the important next steps. For example, I think Mrs. Adeleke already mentioned, and I think some others in the chat groups, the importance of mapping the wetlands, the importance of identifying which wetlands are protected, the importance of making this information public. And I think another thing that would be really positive in regards to making this information public, as was mentioned by the Ministry of Tourism, they're inviting the private sector to come in to engage on developing these spaces as either conservation areas or recreational spaces or even agriculture. And I feel like these, if by making the map available, by knowing, okay, what is actually even available to be done, I think we can then start making such proposals as the linear park or other spaces, even for example, the National Theatre as well. So I think for me, I feel like data has been mentioned as being very important and really identifying and mapping these areas. In addition, I think we mentioned about laws and policies. I think Mrs. Banire already mentioned that there was a draft policy. It would be great to understand when that will be implemented or how that will be implemented, because I mean, I am not aware of it, but it would be great for that to be put forward so that everyone can be aware that there is this policy that should exist. And then lastly, just to say, enforcement. I think everyone has mentioned about enforcement. It's also obviously very important. And unfortunately, we don't have physical planning here today. They actually did not, they didn't say they were going to be joining the event, though they were invited. So we will obviously communicate the comments that have been made in this discussion. We will share it with the ministry as well. And I feel like it is, as everyone has mentioned, it's very important that they are part of this because, as I mentioned earlier, with the wetlands that we are looking at around the Maryland area, we were made aware from the Surveyor General's office that actually there is supposed to be an area allocated to housing, to an housing development. And to me, that seems wrong because obviously this is a wetland that should be preserved, but it was allocated. So which means that physical planning is aware that this development is going to happen. I don't know when, but it's on the map. So by the Surveyor General. So therefore, I mean, they are critical to these discussions as well. So I think for me, that's it. But thank you again from everybody. I really appreciate the time that you've taken. I'll hand back to Mr. Ashade.
Thank you so much, Olamide. Just a very successful discussion because at least we've been able to stand some clear path for us the way to go, and that is about mapping those wetlands areas, just like you say the laws and policies, how to be implemented, the data to have. And just like we mentioned the fiscal planning, there's also a particular key thing to this that is causing a major threat to wetlands, which is about the human activities, discipline towards disposal of waste. You know, a lot of this, waste disposal materials and the non-degradable plastics are lined up into the drains and runoff, which end up in surrounding these wetlands. They are similarly major threats to wetlands. So this is, and that is why the Lagos Water Fund last while, and of course the LOMA too needs to come on board so that they tell us what they are doing to make sure that all this waste are not disposed to these areas and then causing threats to this wetland. It has been a very wonderful discussion, and we would like to use this moment to appreciate all our speakers. We don't know if we have any MPAs who want to make one contribution or the other before we end. If there is, you cannot just signify. But then we're using this opportunity to appreciate all our speakers from the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Water Funds, Ministry of Agriculture, and we appreciate our speaker, Ms. Adeleke, the independent government consultant, and of course we appreciate Olamide from the Lagos Panellists Initiative. All our members from the Lagos Wetlands advocacy group, we appreciate everyone for doing this together, making sure we conserve the wetlands and working together since we started our campaign online. We'll still be engaging, of course. We have a lot to do, but it's just a step forward. At least we know the roadmap of how to conserve this wetland now, and we will be engaging everyone of us again. So please make sure you will be available for us when we need you. We appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for
hello. Excuse me.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Just
okay,
to say this, the picture used is not my picture.
Oh, sorry about that. This picture is
okay.
not picture.
Oh,
okay, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, I think I'll have to do that, please. Sorry about that, Ma. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so thank you so much, Ma, and we appreciate everyone for joining this section today. Just like we said, Lagos Wetland Advocacy Group is still much engaging, and of course, we're doing our offline engagement at Oro with the Youth Forum and their media house, Oro TV. So we'll keep in touch and we'll make sure we both work in hand to achieve this conservation of the Lagos wetland. Thank you so much. And once again, my name is Ashade Abdulsalam, the Executive Director of Janitors Sustainability. We have to everyone. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Thank you. And have a good afternoon, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.